back when I was about 12 years old or so. I was just starting junior high school. I was in seventh grade. And of course, at that time, all of you that have followed my episodes know that I've been doing this for actually quite a long time. I was astral projecting back then. And this is going to be difficult for me to admit, being 12, but I want to assure all the ladies out there that I'm not creepy. When I was 12 years old, I had my first crush back then. Oh, by the way, welcome to part 2 in this series of what to do and where to go in the astral plane. I'm going to be talking about some things to do and some places to possibly go, and hoping that I can kind of give you a good direction. Now, I also like to talk about things that I've done that didn't work out that great, because I want you to know that there's a full spectrum of things that you can do. There will be things when you leave your body that are going to work out wonderfully, perfectly. If you listen to my episode on contacting loved ones, you'll know that in a few of these things, and a few of the times I've gone out in search of loved ones that have passed on, I found them, and it's been a very positive experience. With this, I'm going to talk about actually contacting, or not contacting, but seeing and observing people that are alive and doing astral projection. In other words, doing that thing where you go to visit people, which is why I was talking about the creepy factor in all this. When I was 12 years old, I thought it would be kind of cool to try and visit someone that I had a crush on. And it was one of the things that I thought about. There wasn't anything nefarious in this. I wasn't trying to see anything inappropriate, let's just say. I think I just wanted to see this individual that I had a crush on. And in fact, just going back a little bit here, this person was the first major crush that I ever had in junior high. And I remember when I first saw her, I could barely speak. I just thought she was the most beautiful young lady that I'd ever seen. And I felt like I wanted to see her. Now, at one point, I can recall asking her to be my girlfriend, but that was a complete and utter disaster because, oh gosh, I remember she was getting on the bus at the time, and there was a line of people waiting to get on this particular bus. And I was walking with a friend of mine, and my friend had said, "Hey, there's that girl that you really like. The one that you really like. I think you should ask her to be your girlfriend." Now, you have to keep in mind at this point that I hadn't even really spoken to her. Okay? So I don't blame her for turning me down. I really don't, because, I hadn't even basically said hello. But my friend had encouraged me, "Hey, go ask her to be your girlfriend." So, in front of about, I don't know, 50 people, maybe it was more than that. I guess in my own imagination, thinking back to it, in my 12-year-old imagination, I thought there were thousands of people watching me, but there weren't. There were just some people in line. There may have been 30 or 40 people, and of course, school had just let out. I approached this young lady and asked her to be my girlfriend right there and then, out in public. And when she said no, it seemed to me, again, in my 12-year-old psyche, in my 12-year-old mind, that she was saying no, and it reverberated. It was so loud that the world shook, that the earth itself shook. And for me, well, my 12-year-old heart was broken, smashed into pieces. And, well, I walked away feeling dejected, and Still having a crush on this young lady and still wanting to see her. And you know, it's interesting, thinking about it, think to myself in the age of 51, like, why would I actually want to go visit somebody who didn't like me and who didn't want to be with me at all? And I can't really tell you why. And of course, as a spirit being in the astral plane, and her, you know, being in her body at that moment, she wouldn't be able to see me. She wouldn't have known that I was even there. I don't understand my logic at that age. I'm not sure what it was, but I made the decision to go and see her and decided to use that technique of moving with the power of thought, a technique that I even knew about back then. And I can't recall which thing that I had read that I had seen that. I know that back then, after I began having these experiences, excuse me, these experiences, that I had read a few books, and somewhere I'd seen that, and I had decided to see if it actually worked. Now, the problem with this technique is that at times it can be inaccurate. If you know the subject who you're trying to visit and you have some sort of connection with them, an example being their family, there's someone that you were perhaps married to, a spouse, or in a relationship with, and you had a very close relationship with that person and you truly love them, you could use that love to connect with that person somehow, some way. I don't know exactly how all this stuff works, but yeah, having that feeling and being close to them makes it easier. However, if you do not really know that person and you're trying to visit them or see them, that is when things get difficult. Because I remember leaving my body and I remember feeling that bit of excitement, like, oh gosh, I'll have the opportunity to actually see her, to visit her. And in my mind, I thought, I want to see this person. And so I had this person's name in my mind, and I kept thinking about it. And I kept thinking about of her and picturing her in my mind. And I ended up in what I consider to be some sort of chamber of some sort. It was like, you know, it's hard for me to really describe this place to you. It was like a warehouse of some sort, and there were things that people would forge things with, like a furnace and other things. And when I was there, I saw a young boy, not a young lady, a young boy, and we started talking. Now, I don't remember what we talked about. I really honestly don't. I'm just being completely honest with you. I don't remember. He may have been telling me some problem that he had back then, but through the whole thing, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, wow, this isn't the person that I have the crush on. Who is this person? And, you know, even back then, I guess I was being polite, but I was like, where is this person that I was thinking about? And honestly, I didn't understand it at all. Went back into my body and I was bewildered. In this second story, and this was a much more recent event, this wasn't really about me going to visit this individual. This was more about the fact that this individual popped into my head during an astral projection experience. Now, kind of a side note here, I want to tell you that I've had quite a few crushes in my life, and I've always had a difficulty approaching young ladies. Now, I can't believe I'm admitting this to the world right now, but I'm going to, because I kind of want you to kind of know me a little better. Perhaps there are those of you who wonder why I haven't necessarily appeared on camera with my face. And the thing is, I am really shy, or in Spanish, soy muy tímido, for my subscriber who is a Spanish speaker and who may be listening to this right now. I have a lot of difficulty approaching young ladies at times. So because of that, I'll observe from afar and just kind of have these feelings, and I may not approach. Anyway, I was having an out-of-body experience, and I was standing in this grassy area, and it was quite beautiful. I felt as if I was on a cliff of some kind, maybe, with grass everywhere, and that cliff went off into, well, I don't know what was beyond the cliff, but it was just amazing. And for those of you who have ever astral projected or have heard stories, you know that the colors pop out at you, and all the colors are brilliant and beautiful, and this was absolutely no exception. Well, I was standing here and I was admiring this, and suddenly this lady pops into my mind. Now, again, I didn't have necessarily the intention to visit this person. It just, the thought of her came into mind. And when it did, a fog suddenly materialized and began to spread everywhere. Don't ask me why. I have no idea. I don't know why this fog came out of nowhere, but it did. And it was surrounding me. And so then I started walking. And as I walked, the fog slowly dissipated. It slowly cleared. And suddenly I was standing near this immense wall. And you know, this wall reminded me of the kind of ancient wall that would surround castles at one time, medieval castles. And it was so tall. I mean, it looked like it reached up to the sky, and there was this stairway that was embedded in the wall, and there was a kid, little boy, that was standing by the stairway. And I approached him, and we began talking. And he started telling me how obsessed he was with this structure, with this big wall, with this building, I guess in some way building it or making improvements. I'm not sure. It was a very odd conversation, I guess, but I also believe that the conversation seemed to help, I guess, because at some point the kid vanished. Like right where he was standing, he vanished. And even though he did vanish, he was still there, I guess in a sense invisible. And I put my hand around him and we just started walking and continued to have our conversation that I can't really remember much about. But that's what happened, and then I returned to my body. Very strange. It was a very strange thing. Now, I say all this to say that if you're going to go visit people in the living, people out in the 3D world, when you astral project, and it's kind of a cool thought to think, oh, you know, I can go visit this person, I can go visit that person and see what they're up to. A few things. For me, it's never turned out the way I thought it was going to turn out. And when you do this, you may not see what you think you're going to see, although you may see everything that you're thinking that you're going to see. I don't know. I can just kind of relay my own experiences. Anyway, I think this is a good place to end this episode. I will be continuing this series on what to do and where to go in the astral plane, and I hope it is helpful to you. If you like this material that I'm putting out, please subscribe, and until next time, take care.